Hello, I am Cesar Chirinos, project manager of Carangas. Here we have my boss, Alex.
Welcome to Carangas. My name is Alex Zhang. I'm the Vice President of Exploration for New Pacific Metals.
Okay, we have here a good overview of the project. We are now in the West Dome, in the hydrothermal breccia with the silver-rich zone. And then in front we have the East Dome with some veins with good silver values also. In the middle we have the Central Valley. At deep to 400, we have starts the good gold mineralization. And we also have the small hill over there that is South Dome with good mineralization of lead and zinc. And to the north, we have a big basin that we think is a collapse system of an ancient caldera. And then we have also more anomalies, chargeability anomalies from geophysical works over there.
This system is a system, the size is about 1,000 meters east-west direction, and north-south is about 800 meters. To depth is more than 800 meters for now based on our drill data. So right now, this mineralization system is divided into three parts. To the east, you can see in a distance, we call it East Dome. Actually, it's a hill. It's about 100 meters above the surrounding plain. In the middle is a north-south valley. It's about 200 meters wide. We call Central Valley. And to the west, where we are now standing, we call the West Dome is also a hill about 100 meters above the surrounding flat plain. Right now, we are still in the mineralization system, in the diatreme system. The upper part, it looks like a mushroom, you know. In the surface part, it's basically silver lead mineralization. If you go deeper, you're starting to get a silver, lead, and zinc. And if you go further deeper into the Central Valley, you're starting to get a gold. And also some little bit of copper. So this is a very classic mineralization model. Basically, you got a epithermal system with a lower temperature at the beginning. You got a to deeper depths. You got when temperature is higher, you got more gold. So it's quite a classic system.
Where does the gold zone start approximately at depth?
Gold mineralization system actually starts about 300 meters from surface. That's why people never found the mineralization, because they never drilled in the Central Valley.
The first zone, the silver zone, is a low sulfidation zone. Does the sulfidation increase as you go deeper, and how does that impact the project?
On surface, we call it epithermal low sulfidation system. So basically dominated by silver and lead sulfides, but right now mostly it's oxidized. You know, after oxidization, it's still very hard to see some reddish stuff because the sulfide content is very low. It's about maybe 1% the maximum. But go deeper, the sulfide content increased to a few percent. Our multi-element assay gives us average sulfur content about 2 or 3%. So the mineralization is very pure, it's very clean. It's just contain pyrite, galena, sphalerite, this kind of things, arsenic, mercury. This kind of, we call it, from the point of metallurgy, deleterious stuff, very, very low.
This is volcanic rock, right? So what's the gravity of it? Is it heavy or is it?
It's pretty light because it's a volcanic rock. It's quite porous. So near surface, the average specific gravity is about 2 to 2.1. If you go deeper into the gold system, the gravity could goes up to 2.3, 2.4, no more than 2.5.
Since we're here, could you sort of try to draw or point where would the conceptual open pit be?
So the open pit, the eastern limit is about further beyond the top and to the south, and beyond the south dome into the flat area in the valley. to the north could go up to the village area, and to the west basically cover all this top west dome. So it's about more than 1,000 meters long in east-west direction.
And how deep would it be from the Central Valley down?
The deepest part is about 600 meters. The pit, it's quite deep because it has the total mineralization tonnage more than 200 million tons here. So it's quite a bit large open pit.
And right now we're standing on the upper silver zone, right? But here on the west dome, how long deep does the mineralization stretches down?
Here is maybe 100 meters. It's not very deep. It's like as I said, the mineralization system is a diatreme. Right now, the shape is like a mushroom. Actually, the top of West Dome is like the edge of the mushroom, like the crown of mushroom. That's why it's not so thick. But if you go to the center part of the valley, it's like the stem of the mushroom, so that's why it's quite deep.
Okay. And does the gold grade sort of increase as you go deeper?
It's not a way. Some areas quite high grade. For example, around the altitude is 3,500 meters. That's where the gold is the richest. It goes up or it goes down further. The grades actually getting lower. And mineralization, there's always some limit for mineralization. It never goes forever.
There is a lower copper zone that you actually have indicated in your technical report, but have you assayed all drill results at depth for copper, and what kind of grades are you seeing?
Yeah, we did assay for copper. Yeah, 0.2 or 0.3 is not that high. So in terms of copper mineralization, that kind of grade is not economic at depths. But we can't guarantee there's no more better mineralization at depths because it looks like at further depths there might be some more intrusive or maybe some typical porphyry copper system. We're not sure yet. If you want to confirm that idea, you need to have longer drilling into the depths.
I mean, quite recently, or at least during the summer, you published some recent step-out drilling results from the, I think it's called the southwest direction in the Central Valley. Especially in sort of the upper zone, you had some high-grade silver
Yes.
assays. Yeah, those step-outs, are those included in the current mineralization? And would you point out where they should have drilled them?
It's over there. It's about 100 meters further south from the south dome. Over the flat area.
And are those included in the MRE? Or?
Yes, it's included. It's included.
And it's that sort of outside of the diatreme pipe or breccia pipe?
We think that part is a small diatreme. It's a small diatreme compared to the Central Valley area. It's like so this kind of a new discovery give us some new ideas, is that, or speculation, whatever you call that, is that maybe in this big Carangas basin area, covered right now it's covered overburden, maybe there are some more blind mineralization system, like the one south of South Dome.
So in what directions are the mineralization, if we talk about the Central Valley and the West Dome and East Dome, the mineralization is still open?
For the depth part, the gold mineralization system is still open to the northeast, but not to the south. But if you look at the silver mineralization system, right now we are standing on the known system, but there could be other unknown system under the overburdened in the valley. So that's what we have to do in the future based on those IP survey chargeability anomalies, do some test drilling to see if that's idea. It's very likely, but you need a drill test first.
At the current Carangas deposit, where do you see most potential for resource expansion?
Right now we only drilled 1,000 meters long east-west and north-south of 800 meters. Within this area, I think the depth part is to the northeast for the gold system, and also to the east. That area we didn't drill yet, any hole yet, but that area is close to the anomaly, IP anomaly 6. I think that we need to drill a few holes over there.
How consistent is the mineralization? Are there sort of high-grade pockets? Do you think if there would be a mine in the future that you could high-grade it?
Yes, so near surface, the silver zone, the mineralization is like a sub-horizontal bands. So there are some high-grade bands. It could be our for the start of the open pit mining.
How much of the current resource or of this breccia pipe is not in the gold zone, is not included in the current MRE? And would you consider publishing an underground resource?
Yes, so the inaugural resource estimate is conceptual pit restricted. So for the gold mineralization system, only half of it actually included in the open pit constrained mineralization tonnage. So then the other half of mineralization not in the open pit constrained MRE. So that part would be for the below the bottom of the pit. That would be for underground mining. We are confirming this idea in the upcoming PA study.
Okay, and so in other words, in the PA study, you will include an underground resource.
Yes, yeah.
Move on to the regional exploration. So you have done a pretty extensive. How long did it take you to finish the IP survey that you did for the entire property?
We've got 2 stages of IP survey program here. The first one is the pilot test program. The idea is that we want to know what's the geophysical response to this non-mineralization system, especially to the Central Valley gold system. So we did the IP survey the first half last year, which gave us a very strong chargeability anomaly in the Central Valley area, exactly overlay the gold mineralization system. So that gives us idea, how about the other areas? This drilled area only a very small area. So that's why we expanded the IP survey program to cover the entire Carangas basin, which is about 30 square kilometer.
How many chargeability anomalies have you identified?
Right now we have a number of 6.
Do any of them have any surface expressions, or are they all blind chargeability anomalies?
Yes, for example, in the anomalous area 1, 2, and 6, where on surface there's some spotty outcrop. So on the outcrop, we found some veining or veinlets of sulfides. We use X-alpha gun shot to test those veinlets, which give us a very good number of silver. And some ones even give us some numbers of gold, plus copper and lead zinc. So we have some good base to understand, to speculate, maybe this kind of surface mineralization actually is sourced from the anomaly at depths. So maybe a good big system at depths.
How many of the chargeability anomalies can we see from here, from where we're standing now?
From here we can see, okay, anomalous 1 is just beyond this hill to the north. Anomalous 2 to the east, you can see the whitish area to the east end distance. Yeah, the red and whitish area to the east end, the bottom of the hill. And this anomalous 6, this area in the north slope of this hill. But on surface, mostly it's covered by the pillars.
And how deep are you planning to drill?
800 meters. Because IP chargeability anomaly starts about 200 or 300 meters from surface. The surface is nothing, it's no anomaly, but from depths 300 meters further down, especially 500 meters from surface, the anomaly is very strong. It's very similar to the Central Valley area.
Expect your expectation or thesis that it could be some sort of breccia pipe with gold, but could it also be silver, lead?
I'm more inclined to think it would be gold because I think this anomaly is actually caused by the blind, intrusive, like we call that plugs of red light. It never reached to surface. So at that depth, the temperature would be very high. So it could be gold dominated. If it reached the surface, then it would cause the same diatrium like where we are standing, you would get a silver, but those ones is further down below surface, 300 meters down, so temperature is higher on surface than surface, so that's my guess. It could be gold dominated.
What's the hypothesis as to how the anomalies relate to the main ore body at Carangas?
Yeah.
Is there a common feeder zone? What do you think?
Yes, that's why we did a pilot test IP survey program in the first half of last year. That, I said before, that test program gave us a very strong IP chargeability anomaly over the mineralization system. So that's why, based on that fact, we thought maybe other blind system we haven't found yet. That's why we had an expanded IP survey program cover the entire basin, which give us more anomalous area. Then right now, the next step, the idea is to test this anomalous area to see if this idea is real or correct or not. If it's correct, then this mineralization system at Carangas would be huge. Blue sky potential.
And the potential copper porphyry, do you feel like that potential copper porphyry at that?
That's very deep.
Yeah, it's very deep, so it has to be, very high grade. I mean, it has to be a strong porphyry for it to be economic, no?
Yes, if you drill 2,000 meter like other projects in the same trend to the south in Argentina area, this company drill more than 2,000 meters. They hit very low intercept, good grade of copper system. The story could happen here again if you do drill more than 2,000 meters here. Yeah.
I'm Peter Megaw. I'm an exploration geologist, been kicking around for a number of years, have been fortunate to be involved in several significant discoveries. Some of the people involved in New Pacific brought me down to look at silver sand a few years ago, and I loved what I saw there. I keep thinking there's a whole lot more to be found at silver sand, and then a year and a half ago they brought me down here to look at Carangas, and I was totally amazed at the size and scope of this system. They say the old saying is the best place to find a mine is in the shadow of a mine, and the shadows have vanished because the Spanish workings have all disappeared in the last 300 years. But these hills are all pockmarked with the workings where the high-grade silver was found on the surface and followed to the depths that worked for the technology at the time. But Alex and his team came out here starting with the silver zone, and looking around they realized there might be more to this system. They recognized this broad open valley down here behind me, which we now call the Central Valley, and said, there might be something hiding under that. So they did the right thing, which was to put a drill hole in, recognizing that this was a big, juicy system and that there were pieces that hadn't been explored. He put his hole in. The first hole that went in cut 500 meters of a gram plus gold, and it took some holes to figure out exactly what that was, but then it was recognized with the drill density that this was a diatreme. And they took the next obvious step, which, diatremes tend to occur in clusters. So if you have one, you may have anywhere from 3 to 20 of them in the same general neighborhood. And we know we're in the roots of what's called a stratovolcano. So Mount Fuji, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount St. Helens, those are all stratovolcanoes. And the top of this thing has been blown away. These diatremes were injected into the base of this thing. And so everything says this is a perfect place to look for more. Alex came out here with his IP survey after recognizing that the gold zone was full of pyrite, which is exactly what you would expect to show up on an IP survey, ran IP over more of the property, and started to come up with multiple targets that look very much like that Central Valley, which we now know is the mineralized diatreme on which we have a resource. So this is really early days for the system, but it's clearly a system that has a lot to give. It's already given a lot, but it has even more to give, in my opinion. And my job on the board of New Pacific is to keep people focused on exploration. It's one thing to it's one thing to find something that can be a mine and make it into a mine, but it's another to keep thinking bigger and make things bigger, because it's the excitement of discovery that gets the market excited and gives the company its legs going forward. So that's what gets me wound up here. Okay, a diatreme is the earth vomiting. Basically, you have an intrusive system at depth. So you've got magma that's being generated by subduction. It's got a lot of water in it, so a lot of steam. It's got a lot of pressure on it. That stuff works its way close enough to the surface that the weight of the rocks on top of it can't hold it anymore. So it just vomits, and it throws up this big batch of this volcanic material. It's hot. It's got fresh magmatic material, older magmatic material all involved in it, and then hot fluids that are associated with mineralization come up and filter their way through that big tube or mushroom-shaped body of, the fancy word is breccia, which is an Italian word that just means broken rock. So you have this big column of breccia perfectly prepared for the mineralizing fluids to come through. And so when a system can do that once, the pressure can build up in different places, and it can build up repeatedly over time. So the thing vomits several times in different places, and every one of those has the potential to become the focus of mineralization.
And each of these vomits could be, potentially having found these chargeability anomalies.
Correct, because we can talk about IP and chargeability and all of that. All that is telling us is that there is a electrical geophysical technique that recognizes that there's a lot of pyrite, just fool's gold, dispersed in the rock. And the gold is very closely related to that pyrite. So if you can find the pyrite, you can find the gold. Now, they found the gold and the pyrite first, ran the IP survey, got a strong anomaly associated with that, so they have good correlation there. Now they've gone out and they have found additional IP anomalies, which we have to drill to see if the pyrite and the gold are associated with them. But it's reasonable to assume that, similar-looking anomalies in the similar-looking geologic environment could be similarly mineralized.
What potential do you see for Carangas?
So I look at the system and go, how much more can there be here? And, if that one system that was found, I don't want to say by accident, it was well thought out, but it was in an area that nobody had thought of to look before because it doesn't crop out on the surface. And what does crop out on the surface is a little different from that. But there's so much cropping out on the surface that just says there has to be more here.
Right now, where we are standing is the A2 anomaly, which is a big IP chargeability anomaly. So on surface, it's quite normal. It's just volcano-clastic rocks, basically dacite tuff. You can't say anything, but after the IP survey program, we realized that this is a big chargeability anomaly below surface. Approximately 300 meters from surface, the chargeability values pick up, so forms a very big anomaly. And to the western side, the gully area where the bedrock is washed out by river, by water. So we found some minerals veins with copper and silver. It's quite high value. Silver value up to 5,000 ppm. Copper 30-40%. Basically, it's oxidized malachite stuff. We planned one hole here to test the depths into the chargeability anomaly, because the chargeability anomaly starts from about 200 or 300 meters from surface to depths. We don't know what's the depth limit yet, so that's why we planned a hole about 800 meters long directly into the anomaly to see what's there.
The other anomaly that you're going to test, is this the one or is it located there?
We first stage testing program only planned 2,000 meters, about two holes. So one is the A1 anomaly. A1 anomaly is just about 600 meters to the north of Central Valley. So this one is about 6 kilometers to the east of Central Valley. So it's quite a part away.
So in this entire area, the flat area, have you done surface sampling systematically throughout this region, or?
Yeah, we already done about 200 meter spacing grade chip sample program. So that's why during the sampling program, we identified some mineralized area to the west in the Gully area. That's where we found those mineralized vignettes with silver value up to thousands of ppm, copper value up to 30%. It's quite sparse. That means likely this kind of surface showings could be a bit far away from the source. The source could be a few hundred meters down. So that's why we want to test that hole here.
My name's Andrew Williams. I'm the CEO of New Pacific Metals here at Carangas.
All of New Pacific's 3 assets are located in Bolivia. Could you describe Bolivia as a mining jurisdiction?
Yeah, so Bolivia's mining history goes back not tens of years, not hundreds of years, but almost half of a millennium to the 1500s, 1545. The major silver discovery was made in Potosi, Cerro Rico, which went on to finance the mighty Spanish Empire for 300 years and is still going today. And that discovery embedded deep within Bolivia's DNA a rich mining heritage, and that's something that is very much alive and well in the country. There was 3 fantastic modern mines that were built in the last cycle, some amazing discoveries. The geology in this country is exceptional, and that's why we've chosen to make our home here. Is the geology is prolific. There is a deep mining heritage. And the infrastructure is fantastic too. I think that's another piece that is really important. So we just arrived here at the Carangas project. We drove 6 hours very comfortably along paved national highway. It was flat, it was fast. It's a nice place to get breakfast along the way. And here we are at site. You can see there's the landscape is perfectly situated for developing a large scale open pit. There's water available. There's folks. There's workforce. I mean, it checks all the boxes, and so we're thrilled to be calling Bolivia our home, and we think that this country's still got a lot more to give, and we're just scratching the surface.
Could you just add some color in terms of access to power and also proximity to the closest port at the Carangas?
Yeah, so for Carangas, so we mentioned the waters here. We got people, power. That's the one area. There is a small power supply that comes to site, but the scale of the type of operation we're looking at here at Carangas is going to need a much larger power solution. So we will need to bring a power line into site. We've had some preliminary quotes for what that might look like. Nothing that would break the economics for us here. Power in Bolivia, we had quotes at our silver sand project for US 5.5 cents a kilowatt hour. So the power cost is extremely competitive. So really no concerns on that front. And then getting to port, it's about, I think it's a few hundred kilometers to get from here at Carangas. We're just within not too far from the Chilean border, so hopping over the Andean mountain and down the range over to the ocean at Chile, where there's a major industrial port there for us to bring everything in and out. So getting into site was great, and getting the goods out of site into port won't be a problem for us here at Carangas.
Operating in Bolivia could sometimes be difficult. How are you going about building New Pacific's in-country management?
Yeah, great question. And it really has, other than drilling this Carangas discovery and putting out our initial resource, that's been probably our most proud accomplishment this year. We've added a significant number of bodies here in Bolivia. Again, a testament to the mining talent that's here, as I talked about earlier. It's the labor pool in Bolivia is deep with the right mining folks. So we brought a ton of new guys and girls on board onto our growing team this year, and we feel like we're almost there at critical mass in terms of number of people. But yeah, I mean the people, you see me here, but I always would love if we could go around and interview all the other people that are behind the scenes making this company into what it is, because I mean that's really the strength of us, and not only just our assets, but our people, and mostly local here in Bolivia. And that's been, as I said, a big focus for us this year as we transition from a successful exploration company into a project development company.
Then you recently did a quite large bought deal financing, 35 million Canadian, which probably was a little bit more than what the market was expecting. So why raise 35 million, and how are you going to use the proceeds?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, this is the type of industry where the unknown unknowns can always come up, and to have extra cash on the balance sheet when you need it is certainly something that with hindsight can be quite prudent. And so we felt like the amount that we raised was the right amount to not only get our work plans done, but also to leave some firepower and dry powder on our balance sheet in order to be able to move quickly if any new opportunities open themselves up here in Bolivia. And so when looking at the use of proceeds, so roughly 2/3 of the money that we raised, we've earmarked for our silver sand project, which we've drilled. We released 2 resources, a PEA study going forward. It's going to be our pre-feasibility study, our feasibility study, obtaining our environmental permits. Those will be our major the major items on our work plan. We also earmarked in our use of proceeds a chunk of money for early construction works. If we feel like we're wanting to put our foot on the gas pedal at Silver Sand and do a little bit of early works on the construction side of things, we've now got the balance sheet that can take care of that business. And then roughly the other, so that was 2/3 silver sand, about 1/3 of it at Carangas. So we put out our resource estimate. We've drilled already 80,000 meters here at Carangas. And so going forward with the proceeds, we still want to drill a couple of our geophysical anomalies here on the Carangas site. We think that what we found so far is just scratching the surface in a much larger district behind me. So that'd be use of proceeds number 1 at Carangas. And then we're kicking off our PEA study. So we've got a significant resource endowment here at Carangas that we outlined just last month. And now what we want to do is figure out an intelligent mine plan as to how best we can extract maximum value from this significant mineral endowment. So the funds for Carangas will be also earmarked for that PEA study. As well, we need a little bit more data for us to put a high quality product forward as part of that PEA. We need a little bit more metallurgical data. So we're going to go in and take a few more metallurgical samples. It's not cheap. We could probably spend $25 million on metallurgical samples if we want to. We're not going to, but there's a few high impact places where we can get a little bit more metallurgical data. So that's what we'll that'll be the bulk of the remaining use of proceeds. And then we do also have a project generation team roaming the ground in Bolivia. If they come across anything interesting, we also be in the very strong position to be able to act if we see something that could be the next Silver Sand or Carangas here in this prolific country.
In the recent financing, Pan American increased its stake to 11.6%, and Michael Steinman has publicly expressed interest in the New Pacific. So could you add some color to this and comment if Pan American's interest in New Pacific has increased recently?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for them directly, and I don't want to speculate, but I just think if you follow the money, I mean, certainly the US $10 million that they contributed as part of the financing was a meaningful endorsement of what they see, both in the country as well as us as a company. I should say more so us as a company, but also their bullishness on Bolivia. They share our view that this is a prolific mining jurisdiction with deep heritage that is misunderstood, and so that's something that I think we share in common with Pan American Silver. You just look at mega silver projects, big discoveries like the Silver Sand project. They're exceedingly rare, and that's something that when I joined the company 11 years on the buy side, really that was what drew me to this company, was just how rare and strategically important these big silver projects that can produce 10, 15 million ounces of silver per year. So I would suspect that that's really what is attracting Pan American Silver, and certainly an endorsement for us. And I also should mention that our largest shareholder, Silvercorp, also participated meaningfully as well. They put $5 million US into the financing and are sitting at around 27% of the company. So really nice show of support having both Silvercorp and Pan American Silver participate meaningfully in the financing.
Where do you envision New Pacific Metals in 3 years?
Great question. I love it. I think you asked me this in our first interview, and I really enjoyed the question because it did make me think. I know we get so myopically focused on what's in front of us with the technical studies and the permits and the drilling, and don't often take the opportunity to step back and think about what is the big picture. And so I think what we're working towards with the money that we've raised, we've got enough to bring our Silver Sand project to the point where it's fully permitted with a feasibility study and shovel ready. And then I think that'll be our next big decision point. So where we are in 3 years will depend on whether or not we as a company go out and finance and build the Silver Sand project ourselves, or as you mentioned, there are certainly key industry players that are interested in the company. If they were to come in and pay us for the privilege to build and operate our projects, then that's certainly an avenue that we would also consider. But and that being said, though, too, it's hard to predict the future with too much precision. As we look here at Carangas, as we mentioned, we've found a major mineralized system, and you've been interviewing Peter Megaw and Alex earlier, and they're of the view that we're just scratching the surface, and we've got a few exciting geophysical anomalies that we want to drill before the end of this year. And if any of those or both of them turn up positive, I mean, it just puts our company in a completely different league, in the type of company that would attract a BHP or a RIA or that scale of company. And so it's really hard to predict where we're going to be 3 years from now when so much can change. That's the power of the drill bit, and that's really what makes this industry so exciting. So lots of different paths for us as to where we can be in 3 years, but the common thread between them all is they're all very exciting and also can all be very rewarding for our patient shareholders.
So this is hole 96, and it was drilled from the East Dome to the southwest into the Central Valley area. So it starts up high in the silver zone, it transitions through the base metal zone, and then it goes down into the gold zone with several very strong zones of gold dominant mineralization. So right here we're about 75 meters down hole, and this gray banded material that you see here is exceptionally high grade silver. So that sample, for example, right there runs a little better than 2 kilograms silver. Just one way to show it to you visually is if you look at the assay sheet, this column is silver. The hotter the colors are, the stronger the colors are, the better the silver grades are. So this is the grades of this zone that runs consistently from here for about 35 meters down hole. This is all going to average in better than 350 grams silver. So it's a very high grade zone, but it's also very high in lead and zinc as well. We see a lot of galena, which is the lead sulfide, and sphalerite is very abundant. That's the zinc sulfide in here as well. So we're looking at probably just eyeballing it, maybe you actually have an assay average in your mind of what this intercept ran.
For this part, I think about 300 gram.
About 300 grams silver and what in lead and what in zinc?
I think about 5%.
5 zinc and another 3% lead easily. So extremely high grade mineralization.
This is a typical mineralization style in the silver zone in the upper part. Basically, silver and zinc.
And so when you put this in the context of what we saw on the surface yesterday, this is the kind of stuff, especially oxidized near the surface, that the old timers would have gone after. They would have mined out just this narrow little zone of extremely high grade and left everything else. So down here in the sulfide zone, away from where they worked, everything is still there, everything's in place, and it's not oxidized.
Yeah, it's excellent for flotation processing.
There's very few deleterious elements in here, so there's very low arsenic, there's very low cadmium, there's very low mercury. The sphalerite has a very low iron content, so this will make very clean concentrates. I'm not a metallurgist, but I've seen enough stuff to know that a metallurgist would love this. So from there, we're transitioning into a zone where the silver grades are dropping, but the lead and zinc mineralization values are remaining pretty good.
Yeah, like this zinc is pretty high.
So you can see right in here, this shiny gray material is a mixture of sphalerite and galena. This crunched up zone here, that would have been pretty high grade. In fact, that ran, yeah, so 3.6 zinc and 1.5% lead, but that's averaged over a much larger interval. This is much higher grade right there.
It's a beautiful sphalerite. Yeah. Only sphalerite, really.
So that shows that honey color in the sphalerite is what tells you that there's a very low iron content, which would make that a very desirable zinc concentrate.
Still some veining. It's kind of veining. It's kind of.
We're still seeing the sulfide. There's a nice sulfide vein right there cutting across. You need a pretty high density of those to make ore grade. But we're starting to transition down into the zone where gold is going to start showing up. So here at 260, roughly right in through here is where gold starts to appear. I don't know if you can get the light on it right, but you start to see little shiny specks of pyrite all through here. And pyrite is very closely associated with the gold in the gold zone. And it's the pyrite that we think is what is making the IP geophysics. That's what the IP geophysics is responding to. So our content of pyrite has gone up very dramatically in the gold zone. And IP responds to dispersed pyrite. So we have a lot of that here. And that makes it a reasonable inference that the other anomalies that we have also represent zones of lots of dispersed pyrite. And we just hope that those have as much or more gold than these do, because just because this one has good gold doesn't mean that the other anomalies don't have better. 308, we're seeing the first really big gold kick. It's got 184 grams gold with it, silver, but so this is high silver, but this also runs 20 grams gold. So very high gold as well as silver. And clearly a cross-cutting structure. Now, as we get down at about 340 meters, which is just after this break, and again, you can compare visually. There's the gold column right there with some hot numbers and some zones without very much. Now we've come in here and you're starting to see, just like we saw with silver, hot gold numbers basically consistently through this whole zone. It's not visually very exciting, other than the speckled pyrite through all of this, but this is running consistently over a gram of gold. There you go, and you can start to see some chalcopyrite showing up here. That's the yellower looking sulfide right there, and there's a close association between copper and gold in this zone. Looking at almost 0.5% copper as well as a couple of grams of gold. And then at 370, yeah, so again, we've got high silver, 357, but also 22 grams gold. So we keep on going with significant numbers, and then when we get down to about 430, which is going to be a little beyond this, now we start to see really strong alteration. This blinding white alteration that you see here, that's a mineral called sericite. It's a form of white mica, but it indicates the passage of extremely acid fluids. So we're into a zone where we're really seeing a lot of very active fluids. We're getting much closer to the source and the main conduits for where the fluids worked. And you can see there's lots of pyrite in here.
Disseminated pyrite plus sulfide veining.
Mm-hmm. And what sample are we at?
179.
179. So that's running 2 grams gold and about 0.03 copper. And now you start to see these beautiful linear structures through here from the rhyolite. It's been heavily mineralized.
Yeah, this is I think this is relics. It's a relic of the flow banding of a rhyolite, because there's a flow banding sulfides preferentially disseminated along some banding, so that's give you this kind of lamination of sulfides. It means this is the source of the hydrothermal fluid. I think that's brought by the intrusive rhyolite. But this spot especially is that the rhyolite is completely altered and mineralized.
And that continues, and now we're seeing more of it down here, and the gold grades are going up. You can see we're getting into solid oranges. I mean, at sample 199, 199. That's almost 42 grams gold. And all of these around it are 9, 2.5, 3.5, 6, 4. This whole zone right in through here is very high grade gold.
This kind of mineralization you never found on surface. So this is where the potential of this project is. There could be more such mineralization target in this area, but this is the first we already found. There's a flow banding texture of rhyolite. Some sulfides disseminated preferentially along these ones. This one nothing, right? So this give you more idea of how mineralization goes in this area. This is the contact of rhyolite with the volcanics breccia. This area, even we call this like a phreatic breccia. It's not a tectonic breccia. It's when the rhyolite become solid, it's still kind of flowing, but it's broken. That give you this kind of breccia.
Right in here, you can see that we have some very strong copper coming in with the gold. So that's all chalcopyrite. It's also in the core here. What I'm holding in my hand assayed 1.8% copper and almost 38 grams gold.
Yeah, it's a contact.
It's right at the contact between the rhyolite and the wall rocks. So then we go through a zone of relatively weaker mineralization until we get down to 530 roughly. Right down in here, you can see the rocks are again starting to break up. They're getting more altered. We're seeing more of the sericite. We're seeing more of these multi-stage breccia textures with lots of sulfides. And now our gold's going back up, as you can see. Just looking at this, just looking at the colors, more solid the colors are, the higher the gold grades. So very consistent throughout this stretch and on through the wrap into the next series of boxes. So now we've come down into a zone where we're getting this very strong veining with very strong siderite, chalcopyrite, and gold. And if you had a hand lens and looked right in to this little pocket right over here, right there, you would see electrum, which is a natural alloy of gold and silver. And so that runs 37 parts per million gold and 70 parts per million silver. So in this particular case, the electrum is a little richer in silver than gold, but it can work back and forth. So the metallurgical and mineralogical work that's been done shows that the gold is pretty common as electrum, so mixed with silver. It's discrete, so it ought to be fairly easy to recover.
Yeah, that's why we got the initial sanitation recovery is more than 98%, and very fast. The leaching in 7 hours, you can get more than 90% of gold recovery. Very fast.
That's exceptional.
Regarding that, Alex, would you just like to summarize the recovery methods that you're contemplating for gold and lead, silver, zinc?
This area, I think, most common also in the industry is just leaching. Just leaching. 2 ways you can do the leaching. One is the first step, you do some flotation, you get the concentrate, and you cyanide leaching the concentrate is one way. The other way, just break the rock. Then the whole rock cyanidation, I think both way works here. So we need to do more test work to say which way is the most economic way.
Do you think gravity concentration would work for this?
Yes, that's something we need to look at in the next step of PA study. We could do that, use some gravitation recovery first, then do some cyanidation, or just do whole rock leaching to see which way is the best. But generally speaking, whatever you use, the recovery is guaranteed. It's more than 90 is very easy.
That would be a forward-looking statement. If you're saying guaranteed, that's forward-looking.
Yeah, yes, that's right. But this kind of forward-looking statement is based on our preliminary test results.
So we just see more and more of the same, that siderite, chalcopyrite, gold, silver veining running through this zone. And again, just a glance at the sheet, you can see that the numbers are good.
Yeah, very consistent.
Very consistent throughout the gold column.
No, very little base metal, just gold and silver. Dominantly is gold, plus some silver credits.
How deep below the valley is this?
Right now, it's only 580 meters now.
Downhole, but this hole is inclined at?
I think the vertical distance from surface is about 500 meters. Remember, the silver zone is about 700 to 800 meters. Thickness. It's about goes to depth 1,000 meters.
One 1.35 gold. Nice textures. Nice breccia. You can see that the sulfides are later than the rock, the breakage of the rock.
There's kind of mineralization zoning in the gold zone. For example, around altitude 3,500 meters, or vertical distance from surface about 400 meter or 450 meter, it's a rich silver zone subhorizontally. And maybe another 50, 10, 100 meter down, there's another rich gold zone, also subhorizontally, based on our block model. We found this our drill sections, the high-grade intercept gold is always, you drill from different location, different azimuths, direction of drill holes, but you hit the gold, high-grade gold is on almost the same altitude. So we're based on this fact, we realized, okay, the silver mineralization, high-grade gold mineralization, basically is kind of zoning subhorizontally. Maybe there are several this kind of high-grade bands along the hole.
And that's what we've seen going down the hole. We've seen consistent wide zones of gold, then some zones of not very well mineralized rock, then another broad zone of gold mineralization, and then that just keeps on continuing through the bottom of the hole. So from here on down, it's really lather, rinse, repeat. It's alternating zones of moderate mineralization, and then you get into these zones where, again, the colors alone tell you there's consistent gold mineralization through that whole zone.
It's got a 4 ppm gold based on X-Carve test, this piece. Chargeability.
1.5 grams of gold over the entire intercept.
Right, bands, crusts. It's what we call the phreatic breccia. This is red crust, red crust, red crust. The breccia and rhyolite at the same time, they form at the same time. The rhyolite magma is broken when it becomes solid. That's why we call it phreatic breccia.
Lots of these fractures, lots of pyrite. Some pretty good looking grade probably in there.
This one probably not much, this kind of things.
No, once the rock holds together and it's not bleached. Here now we're back into the rhyolite with the flow banding. So it's worth pointing out that rhyolite magma is very viscous. It has the viscosity of cold peanut butter. It is very, very sticky and hard. So to get this kind of flow banding in a rhyolite, you have to have a lot of volatiles mixed into it. So a lot of water, a lot of various other kinds of volatiles are mixed in with it to get that kind of flow banding. And so it becomes extremely explosive and basically creates its own breccias. $2.5 a gram, 3.4. So coming back into the zone with more of the chalcopyrite and siderite, the gold grades are going back up again. It just keeps on going. This one runs 26 gold. So very high grade intercept in here.
773.
Yeah, this is in the 1/4 gram to 1.5 grams range from here down to the next 8 or 9 boxes.
785.
It's just sort of more and more of the same. There's nothing special to say about them other than the fact that they're consistently either strongly anomalous or mineralized with gold.
Here depths about 850.
But this banding that you guys are seeing, what's the explanation of this taking place in the gold?
Well, the banding doesn't have anything to do with the gold directly, but the banding tells you that the rhyolite had a lot of liquid in it, and that made the rhyolite less viscous, so it made it more fluid, so it could flow and it could develop this contorted flow banding that we see. And probably the fact that there was a lot of fluid associated with the rhyolite meant that that was part of the ore fluid that brought in the gold. So that's the connection, probably. Another really beautiful chalcopyrite zone.
Yes, in the rhyolite.
This is just the last few boxes of the hole, so it's just more of the same. So it's not going to change anything for you.
Yes. The same thing.
All the way to the bottom of the hole right here at about 900 meters. Just less than 900 meters. Nope, sorry. There's a few more boxes. 950 meters. Stopped right at 950.
Yeah, it's still rhyolite, but just finished.
So still picking up mineralization practically at the bottom of the hole.
Yeah. It's called finished in mineralization.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our next step, to look for other areas for this kind of blind, relatively intrusive, maybe a few hundred meters below surface, that will constitute more gold or silver mineralization in this area. Right now, we already drilled one target, but those kind of blind, intrusive plugs could mean more targets to test. Could be, related to those IP chargeability anomalies, because the Central Valley, this kind of thing, the IP chargeability response is very good. So we have good reason to believe those anomalies could be the same thing or better than this.
Well, if you want to improve your luck, go to elephant country. You've already found one elephant. So the chances of there being other elephants around that look the same are not bad or better. I mean, some of the anomalies are bigger than this.
Yes. But this is the first time in Bolivia we found this kind of mineralization. Bolivia basically is very common. The top part of this hole is very common in Bolivia, but the lower part is the first time in Bolivia we found this kind of mineralization, gold associated with right intrusive depths, right below the silver mineralization near the surface.
Well, it's worth mentioning that this style of mineralization is not uncommon just over the mountains to the west in Chile.
Right. Maybe this is a higher level than that's a
higher level of preservation, sure. Mm-hmm.
But if you drill deeper, this 2 to 12 meters, you may be able to get to Chile style mineralization of copper. For the good example is Filo del Sol to the south, the same belt, but they got a copper gold porphyry style mineralization below silver zone, but how deep the drill? 2,000 meters. Yeah.
If the grade's good enough,
it's worth to try.
No plans currently to try to intersect into a potential copper porphyry at depth.
Right now we don't have, because we have better targets to test. Like those IP chargeability anomalies. They're shallower, so that would be easier to convert to mineral resources, right? Because end of the day, exploration is business. It's not only academic study. It's a combination of academic and business, because your money is raised from investors. You need to get a return to them.
Well, I think you're putting the pieces together on the scientific side very nicely, and so it's a question of get out the rotary truth machine and see what's there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think based on this discovery, we should be able to have multiple good scientific papers on this kind of deposit, mineralization, model, whatever.
The scientific papers are great, but the first one we want is that resource report that talks about how many millions of tons we have of economic gold mineralization here. Then we can worry about some publications.
The people here are very proud. Our team here very proud of this discovery, right, Cesar?
Yes, yes, for sure.
These young people, they are very enthusiastic, proactive, and focused on this project. Everyone is proud to be part of this discovery story.
As well they should be. And it doesn't happen that often. You can go through an entire career in exploration and not make or be involved in a major discovery. And for this team, as young as they are, they can all put that on their resume and dine out on it for the rest of their lives.
I think New Pacific Metal sitting here today, it's a very difficult equity market environment. Our shares, like all our peers, have been beaten down. We're trading at a fraction of where we were a couple of years ago, when all we had under our name was a resource estimate at our Silver Sand project. And fast forward till today, we've now got a PEA study at our Silver Sand project, and we're advancing towards a pre-feasibility study. We've discovered this Carangas project. We put out our resource, 560 million silver equivalent ounces in the indicated category, another 110 million ounces in the inferred category, with some walk-up major drill targets sitting on surface for us to go in and test. So, and with a much expanded team. So we've got significantly more metal. We've advanced our projects significantly further, and we've got a much larger team that we've handpicked, especially over this past year, trading at fractions of our all-time high. I think the value proposition today is about as strong as anything I've seen in the precious metals industry in a really long time.